Bitcoin bulls celebrated this week as the 100,000 per Bitcoin price was finally broken. Immediate price volatility followed shortly thereafter, with the trade-off wick falling toward 90,000 before recovery and a strong close today. Even the Fiat Federal Reserve Chair had a highly shared take on the trade this week.
In the Federal Reserve itself, in terms of the system, what do you think of that idea?
I don't think that's how people think about it. I mean, it's so, people use Bitcoin as a speculative asset, right? It's like gold. It's just like gold, only it's virtual, it's digital. People are not using it as a form of payment or as a store of value. It's highly volatile. It's not a competitor for the dollar. It's really a competitor for gold. That's really how I think of it.
I'm not sure what Jerome Powell's been sniffing, but here are some facts we can all breathe in. Even with both gold and Bitcoin simultaneously near or at nominal record price high levels at the moment, Bitcoin's total market cap is only about 1/9 of the estimated global physical gold ever mined market cap, of course, of which about 1/4 of the gold ever mined is sitting with government central banks declared and or likely to be declared to come. Estimations are also that about 1/5 of the near 2 trillion total current Bitcoin market cap keys have already been lost, meaning whoever owned them is unlikely to ever recoup them, lost for good. That is like world central banks collectively all forgetting where they put their official gold bullion reserves. That is but one example as to why direct comparisons between gold and Bitcoin, two very different asset classes, is a deceptive marketing clown show. Since the USA confiscated Russia's $300 billion in US bonds in early 2022, government central banks, on net, have been buying gold bullion reserves in record volumes. Poland, for instance, just declared another 21 metric tons added this past month, so that's now 90 tons purchased this year to date. But back to our fiat financialized clown world, where central banks currently buy record volumes of gold bullion, while highly paid central bank chairmen tell audiences that Bitcoin competes with gold. Perhaps the only nation who has publicly bought Bitcoin is El Salvador. This week, President Bukele claimed that El Salvador has discovered up to 3 trillion in gold deposits in our soil.
Nosotros ahorita anunciamos hace unos días íbamos a enviar a la Asamblea Legislativa la derogatoria de la prohibición de la minería en El Salvador. El Salvador tiene potencialmente 3 billones, 3 trillion en inglés, porque la gente se confunde, cuando dice billones piensa que son billions, ¿verdad? No son trillions. 3 millones de millones de dólares solo en oro, pero aparte hemos encontrado gallium, tantalio, tin y otro montón de materiales para la cuarta y la quinta revolución industrial. O sea que la parte de oro es solamente, la parte del potencial de oro es solamente una parte, que no es ni siquiera la más cara. Y si lo hacemos de una manera responsable, una explotación responsable, como muchos países hacen explotación responsable de sus recursos naturales, Noruega, por ejemplo.
Big if true, especially if we consider the context that El Salvador's Bitcoin savior has reportedly stacked 6,000 Bitcoin to date for the nation. They're really the only government to admit having actually bought Bitcoin for sovereign reserves to date. They have a holding for El Salvador that's roughly estimated to be 600 million in fiat US dollar value at the moment. So essentially, El Salvador is praying to mine gold from its ground, valued currently at 5,000 times what its paltry Bitcoin stack is currently worth. Now do you see how one thing is nowhere near the other? The world over will want to buy that alleged 3 trillion in El Salvador gold if it ever gets mined. Not sure about the Bitcoin though. Onwards to other crazy headlines here in the USA, where for a few months now, there has been relentless pumping by U.S. Senator Loomis, who publicly claims the U.S. should build a Bitcoin reserve akin to the supposed world-leading 8,133 official gold reserve tonnage claim the nation still makes. Former U.S. Treasury head Larry Summers had a scorching take on the matter.
But some of what is being said, this idea that we should have some kind of national Bitcoin reserve, is crazy. I understand why we need a national oil reserve. I understand why a century ago we accumulated gold in Fort Knox. But of all the prices to support, why would the government choose to support, by accumulating a sterile inventory, a bunch of Bitcoin? There's no reason to do that other than to pander to generous special interest campaign contributors.
In terms of confiscated Bitcoin, mostly from the Silk Road bust, the USA already reportedly has about 1 in 80 Bitcoin mined, at least where the digital keys haven't been lost yet. That's about 20 billion in current value. So basically just about 1.25 days worth of current US federal government spending at the moment. As for the nation's gold situation, well, candidate Trump had this interesting take in 2016 about who has the gold.
Can you envision a scenario that this country ever goes back to the gold standard?
You know, there's something very nice about having something solid. You know, we used to have a very, very solid country because it was based on a gold standard. We don't have that anymore. There is something very nice about the concept of that. It would be very, very hard to do at this point, and one of the problems is we don't have the gold. Other places have the gold.
One place where the gold went was the Russian Federation, who now has one of the cleanest balance sheets in the world, holding a prudent allocation of gold, both officially, above ground, steadily stacked since Donald Trump was telling reality TV actors they were fired. Russia also has nearly some 11,000 metric tons of proven gold reserves in her frozen tundra mostly. That is close to about $1 trillion in net gold value not yet mined. China also claims to have over 15,000 metric tons of proven gold reserves not yet mined. That's like 1.25 trillion in current value. Late last week, incoming President Donald Trump had the following to say about the BRICS.
The idea that the BRICS countries are trying to move away from the dollar while we stand
Buy
by
and watch is over. We require a commitment from these countries that they will never create a new BRICS currency nor back any other currency to replace the mighty US dollar, or they will face 100% tariffs and should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful US economy. They can go find another, quote, sucker. There's no chance that the BRICS will replace the US dollar in international trade, and any country that tries should wave goodbye to America. So now the supposed free market capitalist leader of the world, the same country which by far has the most tariffs in force, and likely further sanctions and future capital movement restrictions coming, we've resorted to shouting down and tweet threatening our supposed rivals. Last time Donald Trump was in office, the fiat US dollar spot gold price rose by 67%. Now, given all this hot air bluster ongoing this time around, it wouldn't surprise me to see gold appreciate a lot more in his coming second term.
Hello, this is James Anderson on behalf of SD Bullion. Smash the like button if you enjoy these bullion market updates, and be sure to visit sdbullion.com/sweepstakes to enter our free 500-ounce silver coin giveaway.
Make some room in your safe because a whole lot of silver could be coming your way. SD Bullion's Monster Box Sweepstakes is back, featuring 500 of SD Bullion's very own Silver Tree of Life coins in a monster box for the first time ever. This stunning silver coin is a highly detailed masterpiece featuring a hidden inscription on one of the tree branches that changes every year. So put on your best flannel and become one with the forest, and take your shot to win 500 silver trees from SD Bullion, because someone's gonna win it, so why not you? Click the link below for your chance to win.
The spot prices of silver and gold were mixed on the week. The spot price of silver climbed and closed toward 31 an ounce bid, while the spot gold price settled sideways, settling around 2,632 an ounce bid. The spot gold silver ratio fell on silver's relative strength to a still historically bloated level of 85. The CME Group's COMEX gold futures market made news this week, announcing that smaller leveraged retail trading plankton can now start next year, 2025, swimming in their concentrated commercial bank shark-infested waters. Building off the success of their micro gold and micro silver futures contract push over the last few years, this will all make more sense as the spot price of gold eventually goes manic and exponential up spot price walls. The old 100-ounce gold futures contract will eventually give away to these smaller 10-ounce and 1-ounce gold futures contracts and the 1,000-ounce micro silver futures contracts. By that time, this vanishing pile of unsecured gold supposedly backstopping the ongoing COMEX gold futures market will likely be a fraction of what it currently claims to be. In crazy geopolitical news this week, for the first time in 35 years as a functioning democracy, South Korea imposed martial law for a few days, at least until 190 lawmakers pulled a late-night session to revoke the martial law enactment. Calls for South Korea's President Yoon to be impeached have only intensified. Martial law or not, silver will follow gold there regardless. Bloomberg had an interesting video piece revolving around why the gold price in fiat US dollars achieved 39 new record nominal price highs thus far in 2024. Of course, we're still miles away from the seemingly ancient spot price high for silver of near 50 an ounce. This video is going to start with 1,000 ounce silver bars now being able to be stacked on structures 4 stories high in Singapore. Later, the piece is going to move onward into China and I would say India as well, both of whose markets are vastly larger and more dominant in the physical gold and silver world. Have a look.
The price of gold has broken record after record this year. But it's the nature of that surge that's caught people's attention.
It's basically flown against all the rules in the macro playbook. And it's led some people to scratch their heads, wonder if there's a big mystery buyer in the market, because it really doesn't make sense.
One country has been key to why gold's value has soared.
This bar is around 100 grams, and it's around 10,000 US dollars.
And this has revealed just how nervous Chinese consumers are. So what's driving this in 2024, and will it last?
I've never seen their desire to hide their wealth away from somewhere as strong as now.
As a bit of a primer, it's worth quickly looking at just how much gold actually exists. The finite quantity and near indestructibility of gold underpins its value. About 212,000 tons have been mined from the earth, it's estimated, almost half of that in jewelry. Most of the rest is in bars and coins in banks or private vaults around the world.
It's harder to imagine a safer asset than gold. It's a heavy thing. The logistics of even coming over and stealing it and seizing it, it requires a lot of logistical thinking and legwork there.
It's one way gold earned a reputation for being a haven from volatility.
Gold isn't like the US dollar. The US can seize and freeze your US dollar assets very easily. We saw that in 2022. And that particular episode has really influenced the way a lot of the emerging market world thinks about how to allocate your reserves and stay safe in a world where, at this point, who knows what's next.
In the first half of 2024, war in Ukraine and the Middle East, as well as the prospect of lower US interest rates, all nudged the price up. So, who's been driving gold prices in 2024? First, central banks.
They've been buying up quite a lot of gold, hoovering it up really over the last 2 years. You've had analysts from Goldman Sachs pointing to emerging market central banks as being the real driver behind gold's incredible rally this year.
In fact, it's been the dominant driver of the upward gold move since 22. The moment that Russian financial assets were blocked, then that sparks a lot of concern from a lot of emerging markets and China in particular that, who knows, this might happen to them one day.
The People's Bank of China embarked on an 18-month buying spree in 2023 and 24, purchasing gold to diversify away from US dollars as tensions with America grew. The central bank's now sitting on nearly 2,300 tons. Which brings us to the other driver that pushed up gold's price, China's retail might. China's now the world's biggest retail buyer of gold, purchasing roughly 1,000 tons in 2023, mostly in jewelry. But Chinese gold demand hasn't been driven by people spending extra cash. Quite the opposite. China's economy is struggling.
Why does this market keep faltering?
A swinging local stock market, limited investment options, and a persistent property crisis is dragging on the Chinese economy. Over the last 3 years, China's property market has been battered. Homes were a key store of value for many Chinese. As the crisis has dragged on, billions have been wiped off household wealth. Government figures show at least 380 million square meters of excess housing in China. That's equivalent to the size of Detroit. And despite Beijing unveiling its biggest package yet to reduce borrowing costs, prices have continued to slump.
In the last 20 or 30 years, I have not seen, in general sense, the Chinese population has been so worried about the future, the economic future.
Anxiety lingers about jobs, wages, and what lies ahead for China.
And I've never seen their desire to hide their wealth away from somewhere as strong as now.
Evidence of China's changing consumption of gold can be found here in Shenzhen Shuibei Market. Nearly $14 billion of gold was sold here in 2023, but by this fall, things had changed. In October, gold's price peaked just shy of $2,800, an all-time high. Chinese jewelry buyers said, "Enough's enough." Sales collapsed. Chinese consumers helped push gold's price so high, they were priced out of the jewelry they'd been buying. At the same time, those with wealth bought these, helping nudge gold's value to a record high. But why is this happening? Who's buying at this price?
I think one of the most interesting things about gold right now is that you're seeing a lot of demand for the physical bullion. There's cost of carry charges associated with physical bullion, and you have to pay storage fees as well. So if you're willing to take on those extra costs just to have a physical piece of bullion in your ownership, I think that suggests there are deeper underlying concerns about where the world is headed.
Sales of bars and coins are up nearly 30% this year. It all links back to anxiety. Gold is seen as the safest place to store your wealth, even when prices are this high.
From time to time, I always share conversations with my friends in China. Some of them are very wealthy. They're working across various different industries, some in mining, some in jewelry, some in batteries, some in EV. So they're all across different industries. And a common sentiment that I get from them is they don't feel hope for the future. People are actually getting less comfortable and want to do something to protect their own wealth.
And they what? They turn to gold?
Yes, they buy physical gold bars. But obviously they are not going to store it in a bank because they will be found out. So they store it in their own place.
Despite fluctuations, gold remains at a near record high, and the trend since the millennium shows its journey. If fear and instability have underpinned the rally, then 2025 will see it continue. The incoming Trump administration has threatened Beijing with 60% tariffs.
Truth Social messages, at least two of them that he's laid out his plan on day one for tariffs. And we all know that Donald Trump says he loves that word tariffs.
A potential escalation of US-China trade tensions could threaten already weak Chinese growth and upend global markets.
You're going to have central banks look at Trump and potentially what could be erratic foreign policy and get a little bit more concerned about the safety of their reserves and their assets. And in that context, gold makes a lot of sense.
That will be all for our weekly SD Bullion Market Update. And as always to you out there, take great care of yourselves and those you love. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and share it with those you love. Subscribe to our channel and hit that alert button so you know when we publish new bullion market updates.